Hey guys, so today we're going to be reviewing adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. Now this is something that we have already seen and should go pretty quickly since it's review, so basically your notes already are filled in for you. So all you have to do is cut them out, glue them in, but we're going to go over this together just to make sure that you have a good understanding of how to add and subtract fractions when the denominators are the same. So the first thing we're going to talk about is right up here where we see our problem 3/5 plus 1/5 equals 4/5. So step one tells us if the fractions have the same denominator, we're going to add the numerators together. So my numerators are 3 and 1, so that's where this 3 plus 1 equals 4 comes from. So my numerator will become 4. The denominator will stay the same. For step 2, it says write the numerator over the common denominator, which is already 5, and that doesn't change. So my solution for this problem right here would be 4/5. Now when I subtract like denominators, it's pretty much the same as adding, except for instead of adding them together, we're going to subtract them. So here, step 1, we subtract my numerators, 8 minus 3, which equals 5. And then I write the difference over the common denominator. Since my denominators are already the same, I just leave it the same and it will remain 10. So my answer will be 5/10. But don't forget, we need to simplify. So yesterday we talked about GCF and LCM. GCF will help us simplify fractions. 5/10 is a pretty simple one. Already, we know that 5 over 10 is going to reduce to 1/2, but both are multiples of 5. So if I'm looking at 5/10, I know that I can divide both of these by 5. So that's this step right here. I take my answer, I divide by 5/5, and 5 divided by 5 leaves me with 1. 10 divided by 5 leaves me with 2. 5 is the GCF, the greatest common factor of 5 and 10. That's why I'm choosing to simplify by 5 over 5. So here's some practice. Again, it's already done for you. We're just going to walk through the steps together. If I have 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, all I have to do is add my numerators together. So it's 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is 3. The denominator will stay the same. This simplifies to 1 whole. 5/9 minus 1/9 plus 1/9. Because this is in parentheses, I need to do this first. So 1/9 plus 1/9 equals 2/9 right here. All I do is add these two numerators together. That's how I get the 2. Now I will subtract 5/9 minus 2/9, and that leaves me with 3/9. That can be simplified. The greatest common factor, or the GCF, of 3 and 9 is 3. That's why you see the division of 3 over 3 here. So 3 divided by 3 gives me a numerator of 1. 9 divided by 3 gives me a numerator of 3. So 1/3 is my simplified answer. Down here I have 7/10 minus 3/10 plus 1/10. Again, because this is in parentheses, I want to solve this part first, and it's showing me that 4/10 is the solution to the parentheses here. I will then add that to the 1/10, and I end up with 4 plus 1 is 5. 10 will stay the same. Now I simplify it, and I'm left with 1/2. I have another practice problem here. 5/8 minus 3/8 first. 5 minus 3 is 2/8. Then I add it to 1/8. 1 plus 2 is 3. 8 stays the same. 3/8 is my solution. On this one, I'm adding all of these fractions together. They all have 12 as a denominator. So all I have to do is add my numerators. So what this is showing is that I'm adding these first two fractions first. So 4 plus 3 is 7. And then I'm adding the 5. So 7 plus 5 is 12. The denominator is still 12. It hasn't changed. I simplify it. It's 12 over 12, which simplifies to 1 whole. The last one that we're going to do for this page is 4/16 minus 2/16 plus 6/16. Now remember, in PEMDAS, our order of operations, if I don't have parentheses, if I don't have exponents, I look for multiplication and division. If I don't have that, I add and subtract in order from left to right, which is why it is showing you to do this first. So 4/16 minus 2/16 is 2/16 plus 6/16. Now I add these two numerators together and I get 8/16, which simplifies to 1/2. Okay, moving on to adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. This is where a few extra steps come in. Again, we've already talked a little bit about this, but we're going to break it down and you're going to have it recorded and you can refer to this video anytime you need to. Also your notes. Please use your notes if you ever need to. Okay, steps for adding and subtracting unlike fractions. The first thing you need to do is to convert in order to have both denominators the same. So we're going to be looking for the LCM, which we also talked about yesterday, the least common multiple. Once you have the least common multiple, I will add or subtract only the numerators. Keep the denominators the same. The denominator will not change once you've already made them the same. The last step is to convert to a mixed number or simplify. So depending on what answer you get, you may need to change your improper fraction to a mixed number, or you may just need to simplify your answer. So let's look at a couple of examples following those steps. Okay, the first one that I have is this problem here. It's adding 2/3 plus 1/2. So the first step that I want to do is I want to find the least common denominator by listing out my multiples of 2 and 3. Since those are my two denominators, I am going to list all of my multiples for both of those numbers. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 3, 6, 9, 12. And I'm going to stop there because I can already see that I have a common multiple. Okay, now LCD is similar to LCM. Least common multiple is what we talked about yesterday. LCD is least common denominator. So in order to find the least common denominator, I'm essentially looking for the least common multiple, which in this case is 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve by rewriting my fractions here using my new least common denominator of 6. So I'm going to put 6 here and here. So I have a new fraction. I'm creating an equivalent fraction for both of the ones that I'm adding together using 6 as a denominator. So right here, I did 2 times, oops, I wrote these actually in the wrong spot. I need to put my 6 over here. This is my least common denominator. So this middle part is where I'm showing what I'm multiplying by to get to my 6. So 2 times what equals 6? This should be a 3. We've talked about whatever I do to the bottom, I have to also do to the top to make that an equivalent fraction. So now 1 times 3 gives me my numerator of 3. Up here, 3 times what equals 6? We know that 3 times 2 equals 6, so I do the same thing to the top, and 2 times 2 gives me my numerator, which is 4. Now I'm going to add these two new fractions together. I have 4 6 plus 3 6, which equals 7 6, because I want to add my numerators together. So 4 plus 3 gives me a new numerator of 7. Because this is an improper fraction, 7/6, I need to change that to a mixed number. So going back a couple days, we talked about boxing the top, and we do 7 divided by 6. I know that 6 goes into 7 one whole time. My remainder becomes that numerator, and the denominator is still 6. So 1 and 1/6 becomes my answer. Okay, let's look at a subtraction problem now. So moving over here, I have 5 6 minus 1/2. Again, because my denominators are different, I've got to start by finding those common multiples. So I'm going to list out my multiples of 6, 12, 18, 24, and I'll do the same for 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I can already see that I have a common multiple, which is going to be 6. So I will use 6 as my least common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite both of my fractions using 6 as my denominator. Now, if I already had 5/6, I don't have to do anything to this one because 6 times 1 is 6, which means that 5 times 1 will still be 5. So this fraction actually is not going to change. Only 1/2 will change. So what do I multiply 2 by to equal 6? It should be 3. And again, whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So 1 times 3 gives me a new numerator of 3. So my equivalent fraction is 3/6. Now I can subtract 5/6 minus 3/6, which equals 2/6. This is where GCF from yesterday comes in handy to simplify. So I want to find the GCF of 2 and 6. So I know what to divide both of these by to get my simplified answer. So I'm going to list out my factors of 2 and my factors of 6. Once I have them in my T-chart, I can list them so that it's organized nicely. And I can now see that I have 1 and 2 in common, but my greatest common factor is 2. So I will simplify by dividing 2/6 by 2. So 2 divided by 2 reduces to 1. 6 divided by 2 reduces to 3. So 1/3 is my final answer.